What's going on, all you dirt hungry mothers out there? Let's talk about the PC7000.
So I ride through this night, gazing upward at vacant sky.
I'm going to start with my original impression. And to be honest with you, at the start, it didn't really feel all that different to a 5500. Getting into the cab, my first impression was they haven't changed a thing. Except for this screen here, 360-degree camera. Aside from that, everything else sort of looked the same as an up-to-date PC4000 or 5500. Essentially, it just felt like a 5500. There were some obvious straightaway differences that I did pick up on. One being the lack of delay the 7000 had in comparison to the 55. Implement response, tramming response. 7000 felt more responsive from the get-go. In hindsight, I look back and in essence what I'm trying to say is I felt comfortable from the get-go. It didn't feel heavy in this machine, slow or just unpredictable. I guess it's a testament to the changes that Komatsu have made and just how well they've set it up for me to be able to get in and just feel like it was a smaller digger. Right, so it's a 700-ton machine. Its closest competitor, I would say, would have to be the 996 Liebherr, coming in at 670 odd ton. As you can see here with this one passing, I am actually slightly looking down on 996. So yeah, dimensionally she is a little bit bigger. I actually crossed swords with a 9800 once on this thing, and I noticed that the track frame width and track width in general were exactly the same, which is kind of weird. Height wise, I didn't really notice too much difference. All the dimensions, even though this thing's a 700 tonner, it's sort of in a class of its own, weight class of its own. It's closer to an 800 ton digger than it is to a 9600 dimensionally, the 996 as I mentioned earlier. So yeah, she's a whole new machine, but it does actually have the track frame and drive motors, etc. from a PC8000. I think that adds to its balance very well. Just the track width, weight distribution, all that sort of thing. Bucket size, another one. The first I've seen, heard of, well, it's the first PC7000 I've been on, that has a 44 cubic meter bucket, which if anyone in the know, that's 2 cubes bigger than a PC8000. You can see here, just for some context, that bucket is almost as wide as a 793 tub. I want to touch on 3, I wouldn't say major changes, but differences I see in this machine, having been on it for the last 2 years, a real solid amount of time to really get to know the machine. Touching on the weight, it's a 700 ton machine, but yet it doesn't feel its weight. It feels nimbler, lighter and more agile than any of the 550 ton diggers I've been on, you know, the 5500 Komatsu, the 5600 Hitachi. It definitely feels a lot lighter than a 9600 or a 996. Again, I put it down to the track width, the frame, the 8000 frame that's on it, track frame and cleats and all that, distributes the weight really well. The response in comparison to every other Komatsu I've been on essentially, and that's even including a 1250, is the implement response. Everything just reacts when you want it to, which is strange. You know, getting into a Komatsu, an old DMAG. The Japanese, from what I've been told, have had a lot more involvement in the electronic side of this thing. It's not just a DMAG badged Komatsu like a lot of the older ones were. They have spent a lot of time and put a lot of technology into this thing to make it responsive and to make it do what you ask when you ask it to. The other thing I wanted to touch on was the self-tensioning track. This has to be the first digger, well, big digger, production digger, anything over 400 ton, that I've been on that I have never jammed the tracks up on. Most big diggers will sit on hard ground, and so long as you're not filling them up with beach sand or clay or mud or anything like that, you're typically pretty good. But one machine I will say is terrible for tracks locking up with sand and over tightening to the point where you get stuck on a bench, or in the worst places trying to move and the tracks can't drive. Essentially got to pick up a track and spin it to clean out all the shit before it'll let you go forwards. The self-tensioning system they've implemented on the 7000 is second to none. It's made it so versatile in all the soft stuff. I mean, this digger really shines in the lighter stuff, you know, the sand, the clay stuff. All the places where typically a Lee Bear, I have to say, because they've just typically got skinny tracks, the weight's not distributed well at all, you know, for as much as people hype about how much power and breakout they've got, they don't sit well on the soft stuff, whereas this thing with its wide tracks and its self-tensioning tracks, it's really set up well to be an all-terrain machine, especially for its size. For 700 tons to be sitting on really soft benches and to be able to just motor through them, and also being able to climb, its climbing ability. The only other manufacturer I can really speak highly of, once you start getting up over 500 ton, is Hitachi. The 5600s, they pull themselves around really well. They walk up a lot of stuff. Yeah, it does require a tiny bit of assistance, but essentially you're not manicuring an LV track, something a car could drive up for a digger to walk up. It still does maintain that all-terrain ability of a smaller excavator. Another thing Komatsu Germany have done really well with this digger in setting it up is allocating its flow, its hydraulic flow between implements and track motors just really well. It hasn't prioritized implements like, again, I'm going to have to reference Lee Bear. Everyone just raves at how much fucking breakout power they've got, but then you put them in some soft stuff and they just sink, and yeah, they're no good in the soft stuff. This 7000, again, it motors through the powdery stuff and sits on benches that just most other diggers would sink on. This thing just sits on it, almost just floats on it. That being said, it clearly wasn't put together to be in free digs, to be an unblasted material. And as you can see here, trying to dig unblasted coal, there are contributing factors, obviously. It's got a far bigger bucket on it than the manufacturer really designed it for. I think these originally, they're supposed to come out with a 38 cubic meter, which we actually had on this machine for a couple of months while they were reconning the 44 cuber, and it went really well. With a 38 cubic meter bucket and a slightly longer stick, this thing was pretty versatile. It still didn't rip through the hard stuff like a 9600 would, but it was definitely a lot more versatile. With this 44 cubic meter bucket, yeah, it goes amazing, as you can see in the clayey, really soft stuff. You know, it sits on it well, it digs it well, but again, back into the unblasted stuff, into the real rocky, abrasive, resistant stuff, the bucket's too big for one, and two, it's, I think, again, I'll put it down to the way they've allocated the flow. It's a lot more evenly distributed between travel motors and your implements, your breakout. So it's a good thing, you know. You don't typically want all your power in your implements and nothing in the travel, because you get yourself into some shit and you can't always rely on dragging yourself through. It's good to have that drive power that they've put into this thing. It's, again, the best word I can use to describe it is versatile. It gets around like a machine of 200 tons lighter. Really, it does. When all's said and done, she's a very nimble machine for its size. It's confidence inspiring. It does what you want it to. I would say it's conditional to an extent. Well, like any machine, like I'll say about any machine, I'm not rating a machine based on its size at all. I'm rating it on its ability, and the abilities of this machine, like any other machine I would rate, come down to the correct application. And my professional opinion on this machine is definitely for a company that can spend the money on the bomb, blow shit up. This thing will make a lot of money and move a lot of dirt. It goes really well. It really swings and pumps, as you've seen in the softer stuff. But if you want to cheap out, it's not a Liebherr. It doesn't have the breakout power quite the same as a Liebherr would. It's got its application. It's not in the rough stuff at all. You Germans ought to be proud of yourself. You made a good thing here.